We are live.
Oh.
All right, well, today we're going to go ahead and get started unless somebody tells me our online link isn't working. Okay, sorry for the delay. We've had some severe technical difficulties going broadcasting live. So that hopefully working out, I hope. Maybe not, but today is Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Let's start by indicating who's here. Let's start with you, Clark.
Clark Nelson.
Chris Wynn.
Connie Burgess.
Nicole McDermott.
Karen Winder.
Everything just shut down on me.
Aww.
Rich Nye.
It's Rich's fault. I blame him. Just kidding.
Keep going, keep going.
Oh, and we have with us Julie Jackson. Oh, sorry, I just talked over Dave Garrett. Dave Garrett is here. Julie with us? All right. Woohoo! Okay, everybody hold really still, and maybe we'll get through this. Okay. We're going to we have two admin reports, beginning with our monthly construction update. We'll turn the time over to Don Adams and Justin Nagel. I don't know who's taking the lead.
I'll just quickly do the introduction. Again, this is our November report, status of projects. And Ben, if you...
We need you to pull your microphone up, Don.
The technical difficulties extend to Ben having to advance slides as well. So again, this update is to show you what's transacted over the past month on various projects, security, new build, any other major capital project that we have. Justin will start talking us through security, and then I'll jump in and talk a little bit about the completion of a project at Cottonwood High School.
Okay, so on security, just a quick update. We actually this morning met and we reviewed the plans for the next 5, which if you, right there you go, thank you. The Hardwickson, the Rolling Meadows, William Penn, Oakwood, and Woodstock. And so we will put out to bid at least 2 of those this winter and get going. The other 3, the bottom 3, William Penn, Oakwood, and Woodstock, probably need to be done over a summer period because of how intrusive they are, and displacing the entire office is not ideal in the middle of the school year. So that will probably have to happen maybe in the summertime. The other 2, we think we can get in and get out and not cause major disruption. So that would be the goal on the next round. When these 5 are done, hopefully this summer, we only have 4 more over there under the pending, and those are the ones that will be started this winter in design, and then we just figure out when we're going to tackle the construction. And that's the 4 you see there. Silver Hills, Western Currents, Western Hills, and Valley Crest. So that would, at that point, complete us with all elementary school security, as well as some junior highs that we've accomplished, and then 2 new high schools will have it included as they come online as well. So we're making good progress. Oakridge is the one that we're finishing up from this summer. Ben, would you, thank you. I think I can just talk quickly through the slides. You can see the new addition there to the left, where the students and the patrons will go in those doors. There's a stair tower you can see there in the middle and onto the right, and there's an elevator shaft that is right in the middle. So we're getting much closer. The elevator inspector needs to come out here in the next couple of weeks and finalize that elevator. This morning I saw landscape up there, so we are making strides, and we're getting very close. It will be super nice for that community up there to have a ADA entryway, so we can get all people into that building from the front and not currently from the back.
The next is Cottonwood High School. So Cottonwood High School, if you recall, had subsidence which underneath the track, which led to track failure. So the inside 2 lanes, there were sections of asphalt that ended up dropping several inches because ground settlement, when we dug it up, there was about a 6-inch to foot gap between the 2. And so we had to undertake a complete track renovation. And while we were there, if you don't mind, the pictures tell the story, Ben. Thank you. We did some cleanup on the perimeter. It used to have quite a bit of those lovely low-growth TAMs. They were a challenge. I think 2 summers ago, they caught on fire when somebody was launching fireworks from the parking lot. And so, it was a fun little environment that we ended up doing some improvements on to help clean that up while we were there. The new track's been striped. and some drainage connection problems have been solved as part of the improvement. Pretty successful project. I think the school's been very happy with that, and that should lead us, 15, 20 years into the future with keeping that track in good running, no pun intended, good running shape. So, new construction, we'll lead off with Justin on Skyline.
So Skyline, you've had a chance to see the update there, and we'll talk through that just very quickly and then go to the photos that give you 1,000 pictures, show 1,000 words. But continued in the athletic building, in some areas, tile work is happening right now, which is exciting, paint. And then in the very far west area is the pool, and they will actually start digging that this week, or be on site to start digging that this week. So that's exciting. That's the last of the athletic building. That's the last phase to come online. I mean, it'll all complete at the same time, finish at the same time, but that's the last one they're tackling right now, is starting to dig the hole where the pool will go inside the building. So it's tile in some areas and digging dirt to finish up the pool in another area. Can we go to the pictures, Ben? That kind of looks. There's looking at the upper left-hand corner is looking at the gym on the second floor where the track will be as it goes around. Very nice space. And then the picture to the lower right is looking at that pool area that they will start to dig. Once they get all the painting done, the infrastructure, then they can get those lifts out of there and start to excavate down for the pool and get that in ready to go. Sorry.
Is that expected to look a lot like Olympus's? Is that what we're looking at, just down from like the bleachers?
Yes, correct. You're looking down from where the patrons and parents would sit. Yes, very nice space up there. The upper left-hand corner is on the back side or the north side of the athletic building is a nice series of ramps that get kids, as we change the elevation going from west to east, we can get kids up this ramp, anybody that has accommodations or things like that. It's quite an undertaking, but that's finishing up. You see the tile work down there in some of the restrooms down below, in the team rooms, in the right-hand picture there, that white tile in the back there. Paint in the team room up there, that yellow going in, ceiling framing and looking for lights and things like that on the lower right-hand corner. More of the field house, looking kind of more mid-court looking down. Wrestling room, fire curtains starting to install those. Painted the pool structure, the ceiling above and everything, so they can start to dig the pool out. Underground ductwork there on the very west wall is that lower hand picture. And now once that's complete, then they can actually start to dig, like I said, start to dig the pool out. So that's what's going there. Not as exciting, but very much needed. The outside electrical gear and mechanical equipment rooms, starting with connections and getting our utility companies online. So that's exciting. So we'll have power and gas when we need that. Locker rooms there, you can see being framed, those concrete benches where the lockers can go or will go, and so that's coming online there. Again, more auditorium, although, excuse me, that's the temporary utility. We've talked a lot about that, and we will continue to talk about that, but to keep the auditorium and the pool building and the gymnasium, those three existing spaces online, we have to do quite a circus to keep those online, and there's some photos right there of some of this temporary facilities, temporary infrastructure to keep those up and going. More electrical gear on the right. Mr. Hort, thank you, sir. Okay. And we're going to talk about change orders a little bit.
Yeah, we're trying to present to you as clear as we can payments, change orders, and then other items that we've done to advance the work. And so this is our attempt to take very complex tracking sheets and categorize them for you. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was maybe the nature of change orders, because change order is really a legal instrument to make a change to a contract document. And it's not just the 15-page legalese that we sign. Contract documents include all of our plans, all of our specifications, et cetera. So when Justin and I use the term change order, it means maybe 5 or 6 certain things. And so, for example, there's a change order that might be a no-cost change order. We want to swap something out, or we want to add contract days. So that's a change order, but there's not a cost associated with it. There's a deductive change order, whether we change something and we get value back. There's the dreaded additive change order, right? That's something that costs us. And often the question is, well, what costs us? If the owner asks for a scope change, we ask for something else or something more, that comes in with the cost. If there's an error or an omission in the drawing, there's a cost. I have an electric pump, but the electrical engineer forgot to show that power goes to the electrical pump, and it costs $500 to run it there. Now, that's a change order because the plans were not detailed enough to get them there. And so then in this case, we have these special things that we're advancing something out of phase. We found, because of our process, we could do something today instead of tomorrow that was going to bid in phase 3. We put it in phase 2. We were going to pay for it in phase 3 anyway. And so you'll see that listed kind of in our advancing the work schedule. We do it as a change order because that's the legal way to do it, but that cost would have been in the next phase anyway. So in essence, that advance is a zero-sum game. And so we tried to categorize it for that, and we'll let Justin take you through. This is a long one. Next month, it won't be nearly this long because we'll talk about what's happened in the last month, not what's happened over the last 18 months.
Yeah. And just, this one's a little trickier than Cyprus because of the phasing. We talked about that last month. We have essentially, and which correspond to a PO, by the way. We actually have 5 POs on this project, and so that's why we've got that green, if you will, and they change colors as we progress. But the first one is the CM fees. That's to have Hughes as our contractor and our CM construction manager on site. The second one down is phase 1, the building of the baseball field, which is complete.
Let's also clarify that when we talk about fees, it includes things like insurance coverage and et cetera. It's not just all money that goes to them. It's the soft money of paying insurance and bond fees and all of those. So it's not just a cash check to a contractor.
Thank you. Yes, good clarification. So the first phase is at the bottom there is the baseball, which is complete. Ben, can we go to the next slide, please? The second phase is the athletic building, which is the one we're building right now. And these are where you've seen where we've broken down the change orders. These are items, again, as you see there. Scroll mine down. These are items that you saw on this board report, but you haven't seen. No, excuse me. The first column are the ones requiring board approval. You've seen those. It's the ones that there's a number there. Let's see, where's that number? It's the next page, I guess. But we've also got the advancing the work, as Don mentioned before, down there. These all total. I know we're kind of going fast. We're trying to. These all total. You can see at the bottom before you go to the next phase, which is the site package. Staff, we call them staff level change orders subtotal, and then the face advancement subtotal, if that makes sense. Ben, can you jump to the next? There you go, right there.
Actually, I think it's important if we go back, Ben, to the athletics phase. Sorry to do this. Most of those change orders that you're seeing in that section relate to the Relo Village that was created. It was never conceptualized in any of the design drawings that Hughes was bidding on. It became something as you worked with school administration, oh, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, and oh, hey, it's not going to work because this student learning space could be disrupted. And a lot of this is also advancing the work, right? If we took down one of those westernmost buildings, we could start something 3 months, 6 months earlier, but we had to replace an art classroom. So that Relo Village, I think, is our single largest change order category. And so that one I know has been confusing and troublesome, but it really was a methodology to support the school, to keep those in session, but to advance the work rapidly by removing a building earlier than ever conceptualized.
Thank you. I get going too fast. The second category, as Don mentioned, maybe the second offender of change orders would be keeping the buildings online, the the pool building, the auditorium, the gymnasium. That's also been very costly. And so those right now are the two leaders in the clubhouse, if you will, as far as the change order subtotal. So anyway, and the site package. I was going to say phase 3 is the site package, the fields behind the athletic building, some of the parking around there as we slowly start to work our way around that building. Some of those things are being worked on right now. In fact, you see the temporary parking lot that's on there listed as change order number 2. Yeah. I will come back to that. Just on this change order number 2, you see there, the temporary parking lot, that was the parking lot that we put in place last year for, last spring for the front of the building, and it helped us out. So anyway, those are some things. Don asked me to just speak briefly about, are you talking about the staff level change orders and the deduct there? Don?
I am. So that's one example where a deductive change order of 2.7 million came back to us. So we often see some offsets and credits by what we're doing as well. So that's a great example of a deductive change order that at staff level, of course, we're going to take that any day and every day when we come across those cost-saving efforts.
And part of that is also when we, because there's multiple phases, as we bring monies, leftover monies from the baseball package come forward, they just roll over, and that actually shows, helps us, shows a deduct in other places as well. That's part of that as well. So you'll see some of that. Let's see, scroll down to phase 4. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you, Ben. Phase 4 is the academic building. That's the building that was just barely bid and that came to the board last month, and that you all approved. And so that's kind of, and then the summary you see at the bottom, payments to date. That's how much we paid out to date for Skyline for all the construction that's happened, is that $38 million number. The change orders grand total right now, you see the $2.8 million. The phase advancement is just barely over $1 million. And then you see kind of the numbers there, the base bid and the revised costs. So as Don mentioned, trying to boil all this down into a more of a concise, but you can see the nitty gritty of some of that if you wish to see kind of how where the monies are being spent and how it's adding up. That's a lot of information. Sorry if I went too fast. Okay, keep going, she says. Okay.
Great. Okay, I'll handle Cyprus. So I think many of you are aware of our groundbreaking ceremony on the 1st and the rainstorm that came the 2nd of November. So yay us, we don't know how that worked. You notice that the contractors are preparing footings, starting in the gymnasium locker room with a lot of that underground utility work, all that white plumbing that was popping up. And again, just more site work. And Ben, if we could, the imagery, just because, oops. Yeah, trigger finger, not a problem. So again, a lot of that underground work is happening. A lot of earthwork was moving out there, and so you started to see some of that happen. We expect in the next 3 weeks, looking forward, they're going to start pouring the large pads where they pour the tilt-up panels. You'll start to see some of that prep work happen as well. Trying like nobody's business to beat really bad snowstorms and things of that nature. So there should be a good bit of activity. Although I think there's been a good start that you were all able to witness while we were out there. The next page is just, again, a similar tracking sheet. One of the items that you see in your board packet today on consent agenda, it deals with some value engineering. So we were under the gun to quickly turn around a bid package that had, I think we had 96 value engineering considerations that were thrown at us. And under purchasing's advice, they said, well, if you think you're interested, take it. And if you know you have to do more research, we can always bring it back as a change order later. And in this case, a lot of these things, I think we listed a couple of simple ones. We had a very reputable cabinet manufacturer that said, hey, these are the cabinets that could save you money. We said, oh, that's interesting. We've never heard of that line. Let's take that line of cabinetry and do some research. When we got there, we determined it certainly wasn't suitable for our use and wear out too quickly. And so that's why we brought it back. Same with the type of ball field lighting. It was of interest. We'd heard something about it. We couldn't not take it and then ask them to come back with it. We had to do it just the opposite. As we looked at it, it was more of a kit of parts. It wasn't a reputable manufacturer that we knew we could get consistent warranty work because they were assembling from 3 or 4 or 5 suppliers to make a lighting system. And after we got into that information, we said, oh, we don't want that. That's not of quality for our buildings. And so those are the change order one. We changed our mind on your value engineering suggestion. So that comes back to you as a change order. So in essence, we say, we were thinking, hey, we're going to save in value engineering on Cyprus 1.9 million. Now we're back down to 1.8 million or so. But it was a great process. And it was a good idea to make sure that we did our research so we didn't get a product that would cost us in the end. And we feel that that was valuable. And with the next slide, please, Ben, with Jared's tutelage on how to do that through purchasing, we did. So again, this is where we're going to continue to track payments to date. You'll go out there and say, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. It is, because bonds and insurance and et cetera get paid up front, and they're not cheap. And so that's where you're seeing some of our payments already going out. The work is proceeding, and we'll continue to update you as we get more information. And again, Ben, just that last moment celebration on the next slide, what you saw for your groundbreaking, and that we're hoping to finish the building up and get kids in as short of order as we can. And it's going to be one heck of a facility out there looking into downtown Salt Lake. It's a great view.
The exciting news about Westlake as we shift gears, the demolition is complete. They've hauled away all of the debris and concrete, which is great. They actually finished about a week ahead of schedule. And now they're compacting the hole that was left from the old building and footings with new engineered soil to get us up where we need to be so we can start the process of rebuilding that building.
Ben, could you change the slide?
Yeah, thank you. Good point. Thank you. Some very nice photos from one of our, Jacob Perez, who is one of our guys that flies the drone, does a great job, and you can see some very nice images there. You're able to see kind of the progress as they were. This is not today by any means, but in the last couple of weeks as they were able to finish up and get the building out and dig out the footings. So I thought that aerial view is very nice.
Sorry.
That's fine. You're good, Ben. Again, the same. Yep, you got it. Thank you, sir. The same tab we did for both Cyprus and Skyline. Good news is there's 0 change orders to date right now, so that's good. Ben, would you jump one or two ahead? Let's see here. One more, please.
And we'll both kind of speak to this. So the plan for bidding, we actually do it in two phases. The first phase is, hey, are you interested and are you qualified as a contractor to do this? Are you big enough? Do you have enough money reserves? Do you have enough staffing? That set of documentation was received by purchasing today and is sent on to us. The hard bid process is going to occur at the end of November, all the way through December, and will come back to the board for approval in January. So the rubber hits the road over the holiday season. It's extended several months just because, or several weeks, because the holidays are tricky, right? I mean, so we will be coming back to you in January, and Ben, if you wouldn't mind. So again, just a refresher, you've seen the site plan. The building is going to move farther to the south, closer to the commercial, farther away from the residential, and will be a 2-story structure instead of the single-story structure that Westlake is today. Next image, please. Yes.
Julie, can you restate that? We lost you.
I think she's asking why is she seeing outside basketball courts? Is that correct? Okay, yeah. So the outside courts are very common, lunchtime and PE activities in the spring and summer. So that's very common to have those at a junior high level. It gives outside exposure. Now the inside track, if we could, Ben, go to the next page, which is the floor plan or plans. This is a plan that we've taken from Jordan School District. It's the most cost-effective way we could meet the compressed schedule given the seismic damage and the need to bring the building back up online. There is a track. We're seeing that evolve in many of the junior highs, keeping in mind it's a very small upstairs track space. It's good for winter PE conditions, but it certainly is not on the caliber that you visited at Skyline. This is just a fairly inexpensive way to add a deck to that second story and at least get some momentum and some ability to fulfill your PE requirements in the winter. As a matter of fact, I can't think of a school that we toured in Davis, Jordan, or Alpine District that didn't have a small track on the upper part of the gymnasium. So it's the kind of the current trend to meet winter curricular needs, bad air days, things of that nature. Oh, yes, yes. They all have them.
Oh, they all have them, Julie.
Everyone.
No, Churchill does not. And which one? And Olympus Junior doesn't. They're running dirt, but if you go to Hunter, Benyon,
Valley.
they all have some sort
The
of
old
track.
Westlake had one.
Madison.
The old Westlake had one, yeah.
Yeah, they're gravel.
They're gravel,
Is this going to be
Julie.
an asphalt one, or is this
We're
gonna
probably just gonna pave this one. It's
Pave it?
just as cost effective to do it. It lasts longer and has less injury. So we'll probably just pave this one.
Doesn't grow weeds.
Yep, doesn't grow weeds. Ben, if we could get to we wanted to give you a flavor of the exterior on this. And for some reason, the drawings came out, well, more beige than they should. So the designer is taking cues from Granger High. They're within eyesight of each other, so we thought it would be good to use the same material color palettes. And so in this case, it's the reddish brick, the anodized aluminum gray kind of metal paneling, and then kind of a grayish tone ephes to offset it.
Okay, so have we reached out to the community at all on the color schemes? Because their colors are black and yellow. They're the Mustangs.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I want, the bright yellow on the building, and I understand the coordination with Granger, but I can also see some community members saying, why are you making Westlake Granger colors? We're Westlake.
Well, they're not even Granger colors. Granger doesn't have their, well, I guess this has a bright blue. The blue is something that architects just rendering. The color selections aren't
That's
there
great.
there.
I know that. That's not my question. My question is, have we gone out to the community?
We're one community meeting behind where we want it to be.
Okay,
We do need to
because
go back.
I look at this and it does look very similar to Granger. And while Westlake feeds into Granger, I mean, you know how it is when you're in junior high. You don't want to be known as the future Lancers. You want to be known as the Westlake Mustangs. And so I would really love to almost have just at least some community council feedback. I'm not getting, we don't need multiple meetings here, but is there a way to maybe incorporate more Westlake colors instead of
Usually
Granger?
on the interior and the gym spaces and in the cafeterias and et cetera, yes. The exteriors, we typically never see school colors. Does that make sense? Cyprus isn't
I
blue,
get
yellow on the
it.
outside.
My bigger point is just we need community buy-in
Agreed, and
before
we
we
should definitely
just
go
make
back.
this decision.
Yeah, no, we can do that, but I'm just saying I don't expect to see a black and yellow on the outside, but I expect to see school color on the inside.
Did you have a comment, Connie?
My comment was only that Granger is gigantic red,
Yeah.
and I would just as soon not have quite so much gigantic red.
And if you look up on the screen, you're seeing where it's not quite as much gigantic red. We've broken that up with other colors and materials because Granger is a lot of red.
Well, I'm just, like on the Westlake, can you do some form of yellow instead of that blue? Those are the questions.
We could look at that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you can
Probably
keep
not on
moving,
the-
but I just,
Yeah,
I look
probably
at
not
that
on
and I'm
the
like,
window
that's not
tint.
anything close to Westlake.
Yeah, no, we could change a panel at the entry to give it some clear definition. We probably wouldn't use yellow window tint, so we'd have to look at something different. But absolutely, we can play with some of those entry colors with the community council. Yeah, this is just their rendering. I don't think we've picked yet.
Yeah.
So you will be having another community meeting.
Beg your pardon, Terry?
You will be having another community meeting.
We do need to, yes.
Will you you let us know when that is?
Yes, we'll need to work with Tyler to schedule that. He's been unavailable on the last couple of calls, and we just haven't connected. And we do know that we're one community meeting behind.
Okay. Does that bring to a conclusion?
Yep.
All right. We appreciate this. We know next month will be a little bit shorter because we're getting a little bit caught up, but thanks for the efforts you made to go ahead and bring us up to where we are currently, so we appreciate that. All right, next on our agenda is a reconfiguration update, just kind of bringing board members up to date on, remind us the steps that we follow for reconfiguration. This will be led by Ben. I can't physically see Ben. Yes, thank you guys for your work. Awesome job, well done. Ben, are you just giving this presentation from your little corner over there, or?
I'm pulling this graphic up.
Ben left a half hour ago.
I'm wondering why it's not coming up on the screen.
Oh, I see it. The good news is it's a one-slide presentation, and so you don't have to like run back and forth. So that is the good news.
Yeah, I'm a little stressed out about that. I apologize. We had that issue. That computer is still burning up. There's a hole in the desk over there from the heat. So it doesn't like to run Zoom anymore, apparently. I don't have this in front of me. I apologize. I'm just pulling it up on my iPad so I can see it as well, because I had planned on using that computer for this. But we had discussed with board leadership and asked to bring this to the full board for additional input and thoughts and feedback with respect to proposed changes to the reconfiguration process. And as you are likely aware, for most of you who've been through some pretty regular reconfigurations in the past, there was a pretty fluid process by which the community would request a meeting as a whole. It used to be require a unanimous vote by all the schools involved in that particular configuration change, whether it was a 912, a K568, so on and so forth. The board modified that procedure, gave us the administration the green light to modify that procedure about 3 years ago, I want to say. And it required a simple majority and a supermajority in terms of the approvals of those configurations, so that one grade configuration changes, so that one school couldn't hold up the entire process for the rest of the community. Well, now we are to the point where we're seeing construction evolve on a number of major projects that's going to impact several areas of the district where we do not have full grade configuration changes. So right now it's roughly impacting 2.5 networks. That would be the Granger network and the Cyprus network. And I say a half because Hunter Junior feeds both Cyprus and the Hunter high school area, and it is still on that in that regular configuration of 7/8, which is kind of in between 912 and K5, right? So the idea is that we can't really implement a full change until some of these projects are completed. The community in the Granger network had started the process of the K568 configuration change in the fall of 2019. And so we were preparing and had received a number of requests in the spring of 2020 to go out and conduct a community survey. And obviously some big things happened in the history of the world in March of 2020, which kind of put a delay on that particular procedure. One of the major issues was, as you just saw in that construction update, their facility was destroyed. So as part of that, we obviously did not want to pursue grade configuration while Westlake is sitting in a modified elementary school with capacity issues already. And so with the anticipated completion of that project in the fall, I'm going to say this right, and Don's not behind me to correct me, the fall of 2024, and then the anticipation of Cyprus being completed in the being ready for use in the fall of 2025. We are proposing that we go out to these particular communities and take a few years to go through this process, but you can imagine we're getting questions. And so we wanted to kind of give those communities a heads up that, with respect to how we anticipate this process would move forward, again, pending the board's approval. So we have kept the similar vein of the process itself because we really like the community engagement piece on this particular process. There's a lot of opportunities for feedback from school community councils in open meetings for Q&A with district leadership to get visions and understanding of what schools would look like in a different grade configuration. So first and foremost, we would at some point in the near future hold an informational meeting to kind of walk through this new procedure and process as we hope and anticipate with any minor changes as appropriate. And then we would then go out and visit Steve Hogan and I, since he's our boundary guy and understands our population analysis piece. He's always a good person to have on hand to talk about numbers and to talk about the boundary adjustments as they are impacted by grade configurations, and kind of walk out to our school community councils as we normally would in that process. And then we would put together, as community councils had opportunity to ask questions, we would identify information we would want to put into a comprehensive information packet that would go to the entire community, comparable to the info packets and the vision statements that we used prior to the community-wide surveys. So step 3 is we would continue to utilize a district-wide survey, a network-wide survey paid for by the district by an objective third party, just to reiterate and after educating the community, getting some appropriate feedback and understanding people's feelings and questions, concerns on that grade configuration change. Fourth would be all that information taken prior to that, comparable to what we did in the past. We would obviously go and update those communities on the results of those surveys and help them understand what that is, then present that information to the board in step 4, and a formal recommendation would then be made based on the timelines appropriate for the construction and the impacts that are there that we would need to be working around and through. Last, obviously, if approved by the board, those preparations with grade configuration would take at least a year to implement. We'd want to give those schools a lot of lead time. So if you can imagine fall 2024 for the Granger network, fall 2025, if this is all done all at once, it would probably be pushed back to the 2025. We would start doing that work actually in the fall of 2023, kind of working into the 2024 school year, work through that process of survey work and going back and forth with those communities, getting that engagement, that important engagement, and then implementation would probably be made. That would be presented to the board sometime in 2024 for implementation in 2025. That would be at the latter part of when we would want to start that process. I'm actually hoping that we can start looking at some of those things in the spring of 2023, and maybe even next fall, start doing some of those informational meetings just to get people talking about these issues and getting their questions ready. So we have lots of time to discuss this as communities. So with that, I would open it up to any questions you might have.
I have a quick question. So remind me, are we down to Granger networks and Cyprus networks? Do we have any schools that have not reconfigured in the other 6 networks?
That is I say the half because we do have Hunter Junior. That is technically part of the Hunter network as well.
Okay, so we have half a Hunter Junior.
Everybody else is.
Everyone else is Granger and Cyprus?
No, Jefferson.
Jefferson.
Have they?
No,
Jefferson is,
we
yes.
did reconfigure
Oh, that's
them.
right, they did this
Yep.
year. Okay.
Yeah, that was the last time we went through that
Chris's, I don't
process.
remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
Chris, question?
My question was, has the Cyprus community, have you heard from them about this reconfiguration interest in this? Have you heard?
We heard some initial rumblings from both of those communities about interest in the informational meeting. We only actually worked through that first process with Granger and held that meeting at the Westlake campus in the fall of 2019.
Okay.
We never did actually get that far with the Cyprus community. And I will tell you, in visiting with those school community councils, I think they understood that they were kind of in a rock and a hard place with that split feeder and the capacity issues at Matheson Junior.
That's the
Yeah.
feedback I got was, we know we can't even entertain the reconfiguration until we get our new high school because the junior highs, there's just nowhere for sixth grade to go.
Yeah. So,
So a
okay,
capacity issue.
just wondering, thank you.
Terry? Oh, I thought you were done. Any further questions? Ben, you got us caught up. Look at that, it's 6 o'clock.
Hey, I aim to please, especially when everybody's hungry, right?
All right. Thanks
And
for the.
if there are other thoughts or feedback on this, as we start to go out into those communities again, and probably next fall, I'll actually go out and visit some of these school community councils just to let them know what the expectation is, because just the ones that have asked questions about this process and how that's going to look moving forward, I just want to keep them abreast of where the board is at on this particular topic in this process. So I'll probably do some of those starting in January, February, and I'll keep the board up to date in terms of interest from those communities.
So just a thought, that means where we have not ever said that we have had a K-5, 6, 8, 9, 12, we have never said that that's what we want. This says that's the way we're going, right?
So Connie, are you saying from like our board perspective versus the community perspective?
Right, because before it was always up to community council. We never formally said, this is the way we want the district to go.
That was the direction and the pitch to board leadership, and asked why I could bring it to the full board to make sure everybody was on board. No pun intended, with moving forward, since we are to this point where we just have these two networks who have not changed to K5, 6, 8.
Good point, Connie. Okay, thank you. We will go to our break and we'll see you back at 7 o'clock, hopefully with our technology that still works. Cross your fingers.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.